that they don't want to lose power in Africa. The West has been all over the place for months now. What makes them think that they don't want to lose power in Africa? Europe will not be able to do anything without the riches of Africa. European officials are worried because of the ongoing shift in power around the world, especially in Africa, where China's influence is growing steadily and Russia's has recently grown. To keep their power in Africa, the President of the European Union, Ursula von der Leyen, offered to be a friend of Africa at the Africa Climate Change Summit in Nairobi, Kenya in September. However, this offer was sadly turned down. What did she offer? And why did this try not work? Let's find out more. Von der Leyen began by saying that the summit is an important step toward the COP28 meeting that ended a few days ago. It will make sure that Africa's voice is heard around the world and that its goals are properly taken into account as the region most affected by climate change. She said today, "I'm not only here to listen to you, but also to offer Europe's help at COP28 so that we can work together on all the issues that are on the desk." Even though our two continents look very different, we care about the same things when it comes to taking action on climate change. This is a topic we talk about a lot. She told them that she wasn't just there to listen to the leaders of Africa, but also to bring them the offer from Europe. There's a good chance that the West, including France and the UK, has never once paid attention to Africa. Instead, they only work to get their plans and ideas across to Africa. Even when things look bad, they always have deals. And as we all know, these deals always favor Europe over the other continent. She said that Europe came forward as a friend for Africa at the COP28 meeting in the UAE, which was just over. Why should Africa be friends with Europe? That's my question. Why should Africa agree to be friends with this person? Over many years, European countries have seen African countries not as friends, but as resources to be used. They have seen them as golden uranium mines that should be mined no matter what. Now we're supposed to believe that what she said shows what Europe wants. At this point, I don't think Africans or African politicians are that stupid or naive to believe them. She says that Europe is making this deal so that Africans can be heard. Well, Africa is made up of 54 countries and is bigger than Europe. It has most of the world's important natural and economic resources. At this point, if African leaders are having trouble getting their ideas and views across on the world stage without Europe's help, which many see as Africa's enemy, it makes you wonder if they are qualified to be leaders. Africa does not rely on these countries because it has many resources and a wide range of countries. It shouldn't need help from other countries, especially in Europe, to have its views heard around the world. If there is a need to work together to make African opinions heard, it should come from a source that shares more of the interests and values of the region, not from Europe, which has a history of taking advantage of others. She goes on, "President Ruto and dear friends, we hear you when you say that Africa's top priority is to grow your economy and get as many people out of poverty as possible. You're so right. Taking action on climate change is part of the solution. Your huge potential for green energy and clean hydrogen, your important raw materials, your beautiful nature and wildlife, and your young workforce are all parts of the solution. You can help clean up energy systems and supply lines around the world while also giving people in your country good jobs and economic chances that they deserve. This relationship is good for both Africa and the rest of the world. For example, Africa would gain a lot from growing its clean energy industry because it would speed up the switch to solar and wind power. Africa could add twice as many jobs in the energy field in just a few years. The region could also make enough clean energy to power itself and sell to other countries. And you can see that African leaders are very interested in tackling climate change, but it's not their main goal. If we look closely, it will be clear that the West is the main cause of today's climate problems. Even though Western countries have been involved in environmental problems in the past, now that they have developed, they want developing countries to focus on fighting climate change instead of economic growth. As was already said, the West's acts show that they don't care about Africa and are only interested in themselves. This is similar to what Naledi Pandor said earlier this year. Developed countries have not kept their promises to the developing world, and they keep blaming us in the global South. You must do A, B, and C to stop using coal, lower your emissions, and deal with climate change. These people have grown, and they had thousands of years to do it. We need to start growing and meet their needs quickly. The way Ursula von der Leyen described her suggested win-win partnership makes it sound more like a win-win deal for Europe than for everyone else. People say that Africa has a lot of resources to deal with both poverty and climate change. If this is true, then why not put these resources first toward dealing with these problems in Africa? Why can't these problems be solved to a fair degree in Africa first before attempts are expanded to other parts of the world? Or do African riches have to be used to help other people first? Why can't the world, especially the wealthy European countries, really work together to help Africa get out of poverty when Africa has made such important contributions to the growth of Europe? That being said, Europe really doesn't want that kind of answer. Instead, Africa seems to want to stay poor. One example of this is the way that abuse seems to start with the promise of giving Africa money to help. A lot of money leaves Africa illegally, like when Western companies don't pay their taxes for every dollar that is sent there as help. This takes away from the benefits that were meant to be for Africa. Now pay attention to the next part of her speech. She said, "Climate action can be one of the main drivers of Africa's growth, but for that, Africa needs massive investment, and Europe wants to be your partner in closing this investment gap." This was to show that Western help and investment in Africa is not what we think it is. At first, we fully agree that international development banks need to be reformed. Now it's time to put our words into action. Wow. Really wow. She stated that they had been talking nonstop for years and years without doing anything. I'll tell you what else. These comments are also just empty words meant to get Africa to give in. Von der Leyen made her point even stronger by saying, "We're not just interested in getting resources. We also want to work with you to build local value chains and good jobs here in Africa." We'd like to show you some European tech. We want to help area people get better at what they do. This is very important for young people because the better you are as suppliers, the more Europe will shift its supply lines to Africa, which will make both of our economies less risky. We are not only interested in extracting resources, but those words also say it all. She hit the main point of her speech, which was that Europe's main goal was to keep Africa as a source of cheap materials and raw materials. Their proposed partnership, as she explained, is meant to continue exploiting the African continent, and they are still focused on extracting African resources. Any other goal seems like a side goal that won't get any attention as long as Europe can easily get resources from Africa at a low cost. Europe can't help Africa in any way when they work together. Even though Africa has a lot to give, if there is to be a real relationship, Africa should be able to set the rules, not Europe. It's easy for countries like China, Russia, and others to match or beat what the European Union thinks it can give Africa. This von der Leyen speech and the recent things that European countries have done.
All right, good afternoon, folks. Once again, this is Frank. I am your host. This is the Revolutionary Repatriation Educational Lecture Series. So we got 8 more meetings to be on. So roughly the show going to start at 1 p.m. So stay on. So we have 8 more meetings to be on. So I'm going to show another video as we watch. But the show going to start 1 p.m. All right, peace.
Bless you. I want to talk about the Alabama brawl. Listen, y'all, although I don't never advocate violence, God said, vengeance is mine. I must say it was nice to see unity in my people at the right time. But I need y'all to understand this. This is biblical. One of the signs out of 3 was signs in the sky, sexual immorality rampant in the earth, and racial tension increase. This is biblical, y'all. Everybody that don't look like me, they know what the Bible says. They know that the hands are going to change. And if they don't want to give it up, the master again, vengeance is mine. Just like we are the descendants that have to finish out the 400 years, their descendants have to stand before God for the atrocities their forefathers committed and still commits today. Listen, y'all. It's time to unify all across the board. Because if you think these people don't have something else planned all across the board, then you're still asleep. Because they've had one weapon that they have used all the time, and that's fear. Look at Black Wall Street and all the other places. It was fear. Now, although they saw the whole thing and it was not right, they still thinking these are ours. And you can bet your bottom dollar that certain officials that's sitting in high places, the good old boys, and all of that. This is something biblical, y'all. Even though they know that they were wrong. This is the start. Not knowing that Satan is ahead of all of it. If people don't wake up and understand how we have been put against one another, made to believe that the problem was me and my people, when all along they knew we don't have a bloody footprint across the earth. Ignorantly, yeah, doing things to our own, but not no one else. It's about to change hands, and there's nothing they can do about it. So what do they devise? A plan to take all away from here. But see, the problem with their plans is everything they've tried to do to others, it always happens to them. The Bible tells us the hole that you dig for someone else, you'll be the first to fall in it. Y'all pay attention.
Thumbs up and share the broadcast. Tell everybody your sister with the curly braids is on now. Thank you so very much. By the way, family, don't forget we have an app. This is going to help us expand our voice and remove all kinds of restrictions. And so we want you to participate in it. I think you're going to love it. Be sure to download the app. And if you would, be sure to tell everybody you know. Thank you so very much. Family, you all know that whenever I talk about the great Captain Traore of Burkina Faso, I'm always smiling ear to ear. It's not about perfection. It's not about whether or not one makes mistakes or not. And if all the tactical and strategic plans, go as planned. No, it's not about that. It's about his spirit. It's about his energy and his ability to involve the people. Talk black to me, somebody. He just did something that is shocking and sending shockwaves throughout the United States and the West. I want you to watch this first clip.
Don't buy another pair of glasses until you've seen what this new invention can do. These self-adjustable glasses are taking...
The enemy doesn't sleep. They are always looking for you, to surprise you. They are in disarray looking for their bearings. But get started. Don't let them ever find their bearings.
Ne les laissons jamais trouver ses repères. Ils ne peuvent plus se regrouper comme
We
ça.
must never allow them the chance to regroup.
Ne les laissons
They are
jamais
enemies of the
trouver ses
Burkinabe
repères.
people. We gave a chance to the terrorists to lay down the weapons. Those who did not understand the message, there is only one thing, and that is death.
Il n'y a qu'une seule chose, c'est la mort. Parce que nous allons leur donner la mort qu'ils souhaitent. Et ils verront l'enfer sur cette terre du Burkina avant de rejoindre l'au-delà.
We are going to wipe out all the terrorists in our homeland. That is what they want, and they will see hell on this land of Burkina.
Avant de rejoindre l'au-delà. S'ils ont la chance d'ailleurs. Parce que les charognards en feront leur festin.
You might be wondering, Vicky, what in the world is that about? Well, our brother is sitting there talking about how they launched a surprise attack against certain insurgents, terrorists. He made it clear that your enemy doesn't sleep. This is profound. He said, we're going to leave them disarrayed and never let them find their barracks. Woo, that is powerful. Vicky, you may be saying, what in the world is going on? Let me give you a little bit more background. In Burkina Faso, reports show that Captain Traoré launched a surprise offensive against terrorist groups. It says that this is coming after Ibrahim made repeated calls, and he made this clear, and you're going to hear this in the next clip. He made repeated calls for repentant insurgents to lay down their arms. This particular operation has been prepared discreetly to take the armed terrorist groups unaware in their occupied region close to the border with Mali. Talk black to me, somebody. Did you hear what he said? He said, we gave them a chance, as I just read earlier, to lay down their arms. And since, as we say in Mississippi in the South, you don't believe fat meat is greasy, because you refuse to heed the call to lay down your arms, they surprised you. And our dear brother, Captain Traoré, says that he's going to give them hell on this land. And he says there's only one thing for them since they refuse to lay down their arms. You're going to find yourself with an obituary. And we just going to leave that as that. That's what he said, did he not? In other words, a little more detail here. The objective is to reclaim, this says, a major town and a number of villages in the region along the border with Mali. The mission comprised of about 5 rapid intervention battalions and a mixed battalion composed of soldiers and volunteers for the defense of the homeland. Together with the Air Force, it is said it totaled more than 8,000 fighters and mobilized with effective firepower. He ensured some of the newly acquired heavy artillery was deployed for the operation. It talked about multiple rocket launchers are fired at terrorist bases 30 to 40 kilometers as the troops began their progression toward the town of Gaza, where residents have fled their homes. He talks about the importance of winning the war against terrorism in Burkina Faso as well as across Africa cannot be overstated. Now, let me tell you something. The reason why you've been seeing so much pushback, you would think that this type of news would be, you would hear from, for example, our Secretary of State, Antony Blinken. You think that you would hear from other State Department and military heads, right? You think that you would hear from other EU and French ambassadors and leadership and officials where they would be saying, congratulations, Burkina Faso, congratulations to the areas in the Sahel and others for getting rid of terrorists. Don't you find it strange that your so-called anti-terrorist countries, your so-called democracies, are not hailing and congratulating these military and governmental officials and heads for getting rid of terrorists? I thought that this is what they were all about. We have proven to you in no limit of time, not only through testimonies from high-level governmental officials and some direct heads of states, but other credible reports that have shown and have credibly alleged with evidence that there has been, that the terrorists that's within a lot of these different regions are actually sponsored by, created by, supported by, backed by the United States of America, France, and other Western countries that have a strategic interest in the resources and control of those regions.
But everyone has a different story to tell. Shell, which says it's losing it.
The Tampa market. Spiral rise.
In Northeast Africa, precisely on the horn of Africa.
All right, once again, how you doing? Good evening to everybody. This is Frank. I am your host. This is the Revolutionary Repatriation Educational Lecture Series aspect of WCC every Sunday. This is where we come to church. All right, and this is the best church, one of the best church to educate our people and to set the mind of our people right. Because if you think most of our people are still thinking or are thinking right, I will say to you, no, that is not the case. They are not thinking right. And that is why we want to make it possible to be on platform like this. So today's topic, it says, Israel's Prime Minister, the Israel's Prime Minister admit that Africa is next on their list after they have destroyed or after they have killed the people of Palestine and Gaza. Africa is next on their list, okay? And according to him, he has met in Europe. They have met European nations and also that way the United States. They have met, all right? And then the next plan, after they have destroyed the Middle East or after they have destroyed Palestine and Gaza, Africa will be next. And according to him, they have already had meeting. Again, this goes to the African leaders. We will try our best as much as possible every week to come out here. We will try our best as possible to do research, okay? We are there sacrificing our life because what we do here, by all means necessary to these colonialists, is not right, it's not in their interest. What we do here, we are already on their list because we sacrifice our time to do research and make sure we are on our back and make sure we bring out information to our African leaders, to our people in government of African nation and of African organization. So if we go out there, put our life online, because by any means necessary, these people, these Westerners, these colonizers, they are our enemy. By any means necessary, we are on their list as terrorists. Because anyone that seeks to liberate or to educate the African masses, definitely you become a terrorist in their eyes. If Nelson Mandela was a terrorist, if on their list until 2018, that's the time they removed Nelson Mandela from the terrorist list. Even after he was dead, he was still a terrorist. Dr. King was a terrorist on their list. So we are being monitored. So it baffles some of us so much to the extent that how can we come out here? But we sacrificing ourselves, knowing that when we get out there, we can be gone at any time with the hands of the colonizer. But yet they stay. We will do this, and our African leaders will not still get the point. That's what baffles us. That is what baffles us so much. But we will not give up. Because freedom does not come with apology to the enemies. Freedom comes with sacrifices. And that is why Nkrumah died. That is why Dr. King died. That is why Malcolm X and Amika Cabral. That is why they killed Gaddafi. Freedom. That is why they killed Thomas Sankara. Freedom. That is why they killed Patrick Lumumba. Freedom. If those men did not fight for freedom, they would have been alive to live for the time they wanted to live. But how long are we going to keep doing this? Like Vicky said in our video, right? We're gonna get to the topic, folks. But let me just brush you up a little bit. Like Vicky said in the video that you watch with Abraham Traore. That enemy necessary. America is never going to like Abraham Traore. But I thought America said they are on the African continent to fight terrorists. I thought America said they took the AFRICOM on the African continent to help fight terrorists. But the question then become, African, listen, why it is that America, why it is that Europe, because they care so much about African life, why it is this man is fighting the terrorists and defeating terrorists, but why it is the so-called US is not giving praise to Abraham Traore? Why are they not supporting Abraham Traore to give him ammunition? But who gave ammunition to Abraham Traore to fight the so-called terrorists? Russia. Russia. But America will come and tell African leaders, some of these Negro call themselves leader, America will come and tell them to go against Burkina Faso. When Burkina Faso, the leaders, they are standing out defeating terrorists. Terrorists being supported by these same Western organizations that are creating proxy war on the African continent to make sure there are conflicts as they continue to loot our resources. DRC is a typical example. And now we have one of the terrorists, an American-born Canadian, one of the terrorists who is in DRC Congo supporting proxy war. Now he's one of them that the newly elected president of the Republic of Liberia is making deal with. Robert Fayette Land. This man have been in DRC Congo. He's a billionaire exploiting the African resources. He is a billionaire, an American-born Canadian. They are the one having these individual organizations supporting terrorist activities in Africa. And at some point, he was accused of corruption. And that corruption also entails supporting these rebels. But he had the money. And not only he had the money, but he is not the only one in DRC, or he is not the only one in Africa. There are many. So they were able to put money together. And where that case went, nowhere. Now he's in Liberia. Or he's not currently in Liberia. But when I say he's in Liberia, he's currently making deal with the newly elected government. When he came here, 2 weeks, they took him away and they was making deal with him already. But these are the people that will come and say they love Africa, they want to fight for Africa. But the reality here is, it's not about terrorism. We can prove that right now. We can prove that they themselves said they are not fighting terrorists. They are there for the resources. Let's see a short video here. Hopefully I see. Okay, good.
Why? He said, I don't know. He said, I guess they don't know what else to do. So I said, well, did they find some information connecting Saddam to Al Qaeda? He said, no. He says, there's nothing new that way. They just made the decision to go to war with Iraq. He said, I guess it's like we don't know what to do about terrorists, but we got a good military and we can take down governments. And he said, I guess if the only tool you have is a hammer, every problem has to look like a nail. So I came back to see him a few weeks later. And by that time we were bombing in Afghanistan. I said, are we still going to war with Iraq? And he said, oh, it's worse than that. He said, he reached over on his desk, he picked up a piece of paper. And he said, I just got this down from upstairs, meaning the Secretary of Defense's office today. And he said, this is a memo that describes how we're going to take out 7 countries in 5 years, starting with Iraq and then Syria, Lebanon, Libya, Somalia, Sudan, and finishing off Iran. I said, we're going to war with Iraq. Why? He said, I don't know. He said, I guess they don't know what else to do. So I said, well, did they find some information connecting Saddam to Al Qaeda? He said, no. He says, there's nothing new that way.
So before we get into Israel, right, we're connecting a dot here, all right? Now, you heard it from the hostage himself, Muff. He thought, when they talk about going to the Middle East to go fight, he thought it was about going to fight Al-Qaeda or terrorists, right? And I told him, no, it's not even about that. It's beyond that. We don't care about terrorists. We don't care whether terrorists kill the people. What we're going for is beyond that. And what was the next thing they did? He took a piece of paper and said, look, these are the countries. And that is what we are about to discuss today. And that paper he took, it was a memo. What does that mean? They went already, they sat down in meeting, just what we are about to discuss today. They sat down in meeting to discuss and wrote down what they should do. Number one, they already have a stronger army. They can go in any nation and take advantage of anybody to get their resources. Oh yeah, we have the army. We have all these migrants that are coming to the U.S. and they are joining the army. We can use them. They are not our citizens. We don't care about them. We can send them and let them go and die. Why should we have these migrants in here? We can put them in the army and they are already joining the army because they want benefit. We can send them to die. After all, they are not our children. So it was not, or it is not about coming to your country to fight terrorists. If Americans send their army in your country, or if these, how they call it, foreigners, these colonizers send their army to your country and their army die in your country, it is not because of you. It is not because they came to fight for you. It is because they are dying there because they went there to loot the resources, not you. After Black Hawk done in Somalia, George Bush came out, the senior. He came out to say, no more American soldier die for foreigner or die for Africans. Because they saw in Somalia how their army die in fighting our war. They will never fight for you. They will never die for you. Who are you before they come and die for you? They care less about you, about your life. So before we get into Israel, these folks, these white folks, these colonizers, these enemies, these imperialists, these Zionists, they are always in meeting, planning on what to do next. They are way ahead of Africans. They are way ahead of you. Because you know why they are ahead of you? At the end of the day, after their meetings, they called the head of state of African nations and they were wrong and calm. You know, when you go to fish, right? When you go to fish, what do? If you want to catch a fish, you don't just throw a hook in the water. You have to put a bait on a hook and throw it in the water. If you just throw an empty hook in the water, are you going to catch a fish? Hell no. You have to put a bait. And that bait is the one that will draw the attention of the fish. And that's how African leaders are. African leaders are fish. They are not leaders, but rather they are fish. And ready and waiting to be hunted. We will bring all this evidence and show it. But our leaders and some of our educated fools will see it and they say it is how they call it, what they wanted to use, theory, conspiracy theory. How can it be conspiracy theory when you see someone sitting and discussing what they have planned, what they are going to do, and systematically you see it, what they have been doing, but our fools will still come out and they call themselves educated and they will still say it's a theory. Well, let's go to Asia here. Let's see here.
Netanyahu likes to use the word darkness when referring to people. Kind of weird. A lot of Yahtzee energy. But I digress. How many people in Africa are Muslims? It was estimated in 2002 that Muslims constituted 40% of the population in Africa. Islam is the main religion of North Africa, the Horn of Africa, Sahel, and the Swahili Coast, and West Africa, with minority immigrant populations in South Africa. That's a lot of Muslim people. Now, he has already said that he talked to European countries to come up with a coalition that they can all come together and go into Africa and do fuck what. Now, I wonder what plans they carved out for Africa. Ain't the first time they carved out plans for Africa. Let's not forget the Berlin Conference of 1884 and 1885. What was the purpose of the Berlin Conference? Otto von Bismarck created the
All right, sorry, folks. We're going to come back to the video, right? The video already played, but after it played, we're going to come back to the beginning so you can see what he said, all right? But again, we don't have copyright to the video playing, also to the music playing or the sound system at the back, because we know YouTube don't already like what we say. So they're going to come out against our video to say, oh, there's some music playing. But it's not about the music or the noise at the background. It's just about what we are saying here. It is against them. So we have no copyright to it, by the way. So hopefully they shouldn't take our video down.
the Berlin Conference to settle disputes between the European powers with interest in Africa to create pseudo borders of ownership, allowing various European nations to claim almost the entire continent, including its resources and their what? People. Mind you, there were whole civilizations in Africa, people that were living there. That was their home, their land. And the European countries had a conference to say, well, who gets a piece of Nigeria? Who gets a piece of Congo? Who gets a piece of South Africa? And they went and attacked Africa and stole the land. Now that sociopath Netanyahu stated that he had a meeting with European countries so that they can discuss what they should do with Africa under the guise that they're going after the Islamic movement in Africa. For those who keep thinking this is isolated just in, it's not. This is not even the Zionists against it is colonization against the indigenous populations. This is what we're seeing right now. Everything is interconnected. Keep thinking this ain't got nothing to do with you. If we don't step up and stop what's happening they're coming for the world.
The Palestinian struggle is not just a cry for justice. It's a blistering battle for the most fundamental human rights that every living soul on this planet should inherit by birthright. It's an unyielding resistance against the oppressive, suffocating grip of occupation and the callous denial of the most basic human dignity. Just as the civil rights movement in the United States fought against the chains of racial discrimination, so too do the Palestinian people strive to shatter the chains of occupation and tyranny. Never forget, my friends, that the Palestinians, much like African Americans in the United States, have been subjected to a heart-wrenching history of suffering and torment. The birth of Israel in 1948 brought forth the mass expulsion and dispossession of hundreds of thousands of Palestinians from their ancestral homes and land. This is a historic injustice that continues to haunt the lives of Palestinians to this very day. The situation in Palestine serves as a brutal reminder of the consequences of colonialism and the ruthless dispossession of indigenous people. It is an agonizing reminder that the fight for justice knows no borders, and we must stand united in solidarity with all oppressed peoples, whether they reside in the United States, South Africa, or anywhere around the world.
I want you to watch this 2015 interview with that sociopath Netanyahu and what his plans are for Africa.
Educational purposes.
Watch this video,
only.
and I'll be right back.
So I suggested to some of the European countries a simple partnership. We form consortiums to deal with individual countries, help them with their economy, help them with their security. The Islamist movements in Africa are not yet strong. They can be defeated today. They can be defeated today. It'll be a lot harder tomorrow. And my point is, in addition to the battle of ideas, there's the battle. You have to win the battle. And the earlier you win it, the cheaper it will be. The longer you wait, eventually these forces will dissipate, because there is no hope, there is no future for a world of darkness. A world of darkness. And I think the Islamists will lose out, but it may take decades. It may take half a century. Nazism was defeated, but it claimed the life of millions, tens of millions of people, and a third of my people. I think defeating them early is important. We'll defeat them in the battle of ideas, but let's defeat them on the ground as well.
That sociopath Netanyahu.
All right, so let me elaborate on that very clearly. Now, let me go to the so-called Christians first, because I have different dimensions on how to address this. Let me go to the so-called Christian first, because currently as we speak, we have some of these Negro pastors. Okay, some of these Negro pastors, they fast and prayed every day and night for Israel, not knowing who are the true Israelites, because they do not know the difference between Israelites and the Israeli. The difference between the Israelites and the Israeli. The people that live in Israel right now are the Israeli. They are not the Israelites. So we have some of these Negro pastors who are the Israelites, rather, they don't even know that they are the Israelites, they are the original people, but they are there praying for the enemies to succeed. But as they pray for the enemy to succeed, the enemy is rather saying, when we win the battle, we are going next to the African continent. So rather, we have this Negro pastor praying to the oppressor to succeed, so that the oppressor will not come and take them down. For a typical example, that is what we call neo-colonialists. So these Negro pastors, they are neo-colonialists. After you have fight your own people for the benefit of your slave master, for the benefit of your colonizer, right? Once they are done, because you defeat your own people, once they are done, and then they come against you. That is neo-colonialism as well. So by you pastors praying for your enemies, praying for the Zionists, praying for the colonizer, praying for the Westerners, and when I say the Westerner, you know what I mean. You are also a neo-colonialist because you are putting your energy into something useless against your own existence. Here is your so-called prime minister saying he went and met European nation. He went to Europe. You know, we have these Africans who call themselves advocates on the African continent. In other part of the African nation, out of the African continent. They do not discuss their issues among themselves. They always like to say our international partners. But these are the so-called international partners who are also having secret meetings against you. These are the so-called international partners who are having secret meetings against you of what next to do to you. History can contest to it. Africa have never had a friend outside of Africa. Europe have never been Africa friends. America have never been Africa friends. History repeats itself over and over and over and over. They have never. But we have these so-called advocates. Advocates who do not know what they are advocating for. The moment they know how to read one or two sentences, then they feel they know it all. The moment they know how to read one or two sentences, they sit on the African continent and they feel they are advocates because they can read one or two sentences. They can read the white man language. They can read the white man writing. They call themselves advocates. You are the people I'm focusing on first before coming to America or to the Zionists. So you African leaders, this is what they have already planned. Like the Israeli prime minister said, he went to Europe and met the European nation. And now, by all means, you know America will be there. And they are planned. See what they say here, right? In order, this is what they do. You know what they did in Rwanda? The Houthis and the Tutsis put them together. And they did the same thing in Liberia. Put the people together by traps. Because of the lack of ignorance, our people continue to perish. Now, what they are trying to do here, what they did here, because they know the people that call themselves Christian in Africa, they are not united. The Muslims are more united. The so-called Christians are not united. You know why they are not united? Because they do not understand the scriptures. They themselves read. But the Muslims, they understand their Quran. They understand the scripture of the Quran. and they understand the groundwork of the Quran, and that's why they are united. And that's why these Westerners, these colonizers are afraid. So what they are trying to do here now, first of all, they are trying to do this, right? They are going to put the Christian in Africa, the so-called Christian in Africa, right? And the Muslims together to fight. So the Africans going to fight among one another first. And while America and the Zionists, they sit and laugh and say, yes, it is working. You heard what he said. Let me tell you, he even insulted Africans. He said, we have no hope. We are that continent. We are that continent. We have no hope, right? We're not supposed to live freely. And he said, this is the time because they are not yet powerful. This is the time they are not yet united. Because if we wait and they get united in Africa, just how the Middle Eastern nation, the Arab League are uniting. Just how the Arab League have already identified who their enemy are. Africa, they have not yet identified who their enemies are. Because once we call African leaders, they stay calm. We colonize them, we enslave them, we kill their leader. Right? We loot their resources. We sanction them anytime we want to. But yet they stay, they have not yet recognized that we are their enemies. So it is not yet light. So now they are going to make a Christian versus Muslims. Meanwhile, in America, they don't preach Christian versus Muslim. They don't preach Christian versus Muslim because they know what will happen if they try to go that route. But it is in Africa, they always go and use the ignorant to furthermore themselves. So pretty soon, if we are not smart enough to catch the drift, it's going to be Muslim versus Christian war in Africa. Because now that's what he said. The Muslims, they are this, they are that. So it is time that we go and defeat them. So are you telling me they love Africa so much? Are Muslims in Africa not Africans? Just how Christians in Africa are African, Muslims in Africa are African. But that does not mean they even love the Christian, the so-called Christian in Africa. They do not. The same way they hate the so-called Muslim in Africa, that's how they hate the so-called Christian in Africa. They do not love none. What they love is the resources. What they want is to keep you fighting among yourselves as they loot your resources. What they want is your land. What they want is your culture. Because that will be another topic for another day. They do not have culture. They come and take your culture and utilize your culture. And they come and tell you how bad it is. But they just put it in a very sophisticated form. And then you think it is your culture. That's why you do not even know the difference between the Israelites and the Israeli. That's why you do not know the difference between the chosen people. And you sit and pray for your enemy, your oppressor. So yes, Africa is next on their list. So you so-called African leaders that are in ECOWAS, that are planning because America said they were giving ammunition to go against your brothers and sisters nation, get ready. Fools. As they are sending you to go kill Africans, they are preparing themselves. They are equipping themselves. Once you are done defeating the powerful one in Africa, then they come and defeat you because you're weak. Because they know the so-called Christian nation, they are not stronger. They don't have mind. They know the Muslims have mind. Christians don't have mind. The so-called Christian. The so-called Christian. By the way, my belief, what I think now, being a contemporary thinker, when you say Christian, you are a believer of the white man. You are a follower of the white man. You are being indoctrinated by the white man, being a Christian. Because I have not seen any good thing that have been done on the African continent as a Christian, but looting our people little catch and resources. But come to the Western world and see what they do. But only on the African continent you will see white missionary. You will never see missionary in the Western world. You will never see missionary in America. But they need the most missionary work here. But it is in Africa. Always missionary, missionary, missionary. If only you understand the 1884 mission of the missionary, King Leopold letter to the missionary, go and read it. Then you will understand the beginning of missionary, or the intent or intention of missionary on the African continent. It is about time we identify our enemies. And you see the Muslims, they're quick to identify their enemies. You saw Abraham Traore in Burkina Faso. He was clear-cut about it. He said, we are not going to allow them to regroup. The Muslims quick to identify their enemies, but not a so-called Christian. Because you know what? The God they serve look white. But you see the Muslim, the God they serve does not look white. Psychologically, that's what happened. If you serve a God that does not look like you, you serve a God that looks like your enemy, you will never see your enemy as an enemy. Even if your enemy is torturing you, you will think it is a work of God. And that is why they are seeing a Muslim nation. Look in Africa there. Do you see any Christian nation fighting, resisting their colonial master? Or it is the Muslim nation? There is no Christian nation that is supporting those Muslim nations who are fighting for freedom. Because the Christian nation in Africa want to go to heaven. They don't want to be rejected by their white Jesus when they go to heaven. So that is what they are afraid of. They are afraid of the unity. They do not want for that unity to hold. If they hold, they lose Africa. That's why they want it met. That is why he said we still have time. It is still in our favor because they are not yet powerful. They are not yet united. It is still Christian versus Muslim. But if we wait and they recognize it, that you know what? No matter what our religion, this religion, it is not our religion. It was given to us by the same people. They will unite. And once they unite, they will go against us. Let's see this, what they are afraid of. Let's see here, what I'm talking about here.
the forces of Satan. At this place where the people of Niger fought the forces of Satan. Satan's forces are the French forces that were behind us at the time. This is unprecedented. No one has ever seen a united people rise up as one against French imperialism. Here is your latest Africa news. Leaders of Niger, Mali, and Burkina Faso attend the end of the 4-month-long protest against France in Niger. This is after the people successfully kicked out the French military in the region. Listen to what Michael Zodi, the protest organizer, had to say about this historic day. At the same time, I would like to welcome our guests, our heroes. Prime Minister Choguel Kokala Maiga of Mali, Prime Minister Apollinaire of Burkina Faso, and also the Prime Minister of Niger, His Excellency Lamine Zain, who have kindly honored us with their presence here, at this place where the people of Niger fought the forces of Satan. Satan's forces are the French forces that were behind us at the time. This is unprecedented. No one has ever seen a united people rise up as one against French imperialism, except in Niger. This is the first time. You've seen the stooges like ECOWAS and UEMOA that France dictated to its people to sanction us. The people of Niger have resisted these iniquitous and inhumane sanctions. Today's victory is for all the people of Niger. We know that the French army was founded here. Now, the important thing to remember is that we have American bases, we have Italian bases, and we have German bases. We are pleased to see that our Minister of Foreign Affairs has written to tell them that things will not be the same as before, and that we are going to revisit these agreements. We don't need foreign soldiers on our territory. We are convinced that our country's defense and security forces are courageous, descended from warriors, and can effectively create the conditions for peace in the Sahel. That's not to say that we don't need cooperation, but it's up to us to dictate what kind of cooperation we need. No one is going to come here and try to impose themselves on us. It's over. It's finished.
All right, so you see, right? This is what they are afraid of. For the people to be conscious of what is going on. For the people to wake up. These are ordinary people. And now, listen to this, right? Even though they said protest, and he said, this is the very first time. And do you know why it is the very first time? What we do here on platform like this, don't take it to be a joke. Our people are watching and they are waking up. It is part of the education. We might not be in the presence or in their presence when they were out there that day making a statement, but they watch up. They watch video like this and they learn from it and it makes them to wake up. And that is why we will not stop. And that is why he said, this is the very first time. And that is why they, the colonizers or the enemies, are afraid of the people tomorrow referred to as enemy. They are afraid. J. Hugo said, Negro unity is a threat. He never said terrorism. That's why you can know they are your enemies. Because if your unity is a threat to them, why can't you come to your senses like these are our enemies? Because they do not want us to unite. They know our unity is our freedom. They know our unity is our strength. And they are against it. So that is why they said they still have time. Because it is just 3 nations or the Sahel nation that are coming together. Because right now, the West African states or the West African nation, right? They are not even yet together. Okay? The Liberia, the Ghana, the Nigeria, right? The Ivory Coast, okay? The Sierra Leone. They are not even united. They cannot even sit to discuss things within our region. They can't. But do you see the French nation? All right? Do you see what they are doing? Do you see the Sahel region? Do you see what they are doing? They are uniting. And they are saying, we don't even care to be part of West Africa. We don't even care to be part of ECOWAS. After all, we know ECOWAS is not an entity for the Africans. AU is not an entity for the Africans. Our alliances within this region is what we care about, our freedom. But the West African nation, the so-called ECOWAS, do not care about freedom. They don't want to be free. They love to be in captivity. They love to be in slavery. They love for people to take advantage of them. They love to be called poverty. They love it. They love to be called shithole nations. They love it. So you see what is going on. So currently as we speak, Burkina Faso, Mali, Niger, Guinea, those nations, the Chad, those nations are enemies to the United States. Those nations are enemy to EU. Those nations are enemy to Israel. That is why they want to have the meeting. Just how they take Hamas, that's how they take those leaders in those countries. Just how they think they can identify terrorists. That's how they are looking at those leaders as terrorists. Even those protesters, they are looking at those protesters as terrorists. Oh yes, Dr. King was fighting just how those protesters, just how Abraham Traoré is fighting for his people. That's how Dr. King fought. They call him terrorists. That's how Nelson Mandela fought. They call him terrorists. That's how Thomas Sankara fought. They call him terrorists. They kill him. Lumumba, that's how he fought. They call him terrorists and they kill him. Why can't we learn? History continues to repeat itself who the enemies are. History continues to repeat itself that we can never collaborate with these people. Oh, you don't believe it? Let me show you another thing. Hold on. Hold on. Hold on. Hold on. This is a revolutionary channel. We don't. Hold on.
You must have heard about a ton of Africans telling you that Europeans stole Africa's resources. Now, there's a lot to say about that. First and foremost, most of these resources are still in Africa, and they're not being stolen by Europeans. They're actually being sold to Europeans by the African state leadership. Your own elites are robbing you. It's not us doing it, not anymore. The real issue, of course, is why aren't Africans using their own resources to do things? Why does Mr. Beast have to go to Kenya to build water wells? Why didn't the Kenyan government do it themselves? I suppose the Kenyan government could have done it themselves. They just chose not to do it. Nigeria is now a country of almost 220 million people, the largest country in Africa. But they only produce about 10% of the electricity that a small country like Hungary. Hungary only has 10 million people, but they produce 10 times as much electricity as Nigeria does. I mean, I know you want to have your Wakanda, right? But do you expect white people to give it to you? No, you're supposed to build it yourself. Having said all this, it is of course obvious that we Europeans in the North need to prepare for a possible, potential African rise in terms of technology and therefore also in terms of military capacity. And that means we in Europe need to already start looking ahead and thinking ahead about how we are going to win the war against Africa, because there will be
all right, you hear it. So there will never be collaboration. There will never be unity. There will never be togetherness. Never. It's never going to happen. If it ever happens, we're going to be used. And that's what have always been going on. For each time we think we want to come together, we are being used. And whenever you are making business or deal or collaboration with someone and you get used in the process, that is not a collaboration. That is not a globalist, because you are being used for the advantage of other people and disadvantage against you. You heard it. He said, Why would and Hungary or whatsoever? They are not many, but they got this, they got that. And Kenya, they don't have it, but they got the resources. You hear what he said? Why would they? And he said, why would they leave their homeland and go to Kenya to go develop? Why would they leave their homeland, go to Kenya to develop? And look at the disgusting part. He was even brave to say, I'm going to paraphrase it. Slavery is over, right? Colonization is over. You have your resources. Why are you still complaining that the white man is taking your resources, carrying it to Europe, in America? When slavery is over, when colonization is over, when we are no longer putting knife to your throat, we are no longer raping you, we are no longer castrating you, you are no longer on plantation, on sugarcane, on cotton plantation. You are no longer being put on ship. You know why he said that? I don't blame him. He's 100% right. Because I blame our leaders, the African leaders. They agree to these things. They agree to it. I blame them. I blame them to any put sanction on Niger, to any put sanction on Mali. I blame these African leaders. It is stupidity. So what he said, I love it. I love what he said. Because let me say this. No matter how sometimes we may get angry with these people if they make statement, you know what? Look, it is in their interest. That's how they survive. And that's how they have survived. What do you think? They are in a survival mood. And they put you in a wilderness, in a desert. What are you going to do to survive? And you have no access to anything. But other people in the desert have access to food, have access to mineral, have access to drinking water. But they do not know the importance of those minerals. They do not know the importance of those water body or whatsoever the case may be. They have, it is at their disposal. But while other people are in our wilderness, they don't have the food, the water, nothing, but you have it. And you don't know the importance of it. You think what they're going to do? They will never tell you how important that water body is, how important that mineral is, or how important that resources are. They will never tell you. And that is Africa. So I do not blame these people when they make statements. We will not bring it out because we want to educate our people. And these so-called Negro African leaders, horse Negro, some of these slaves. We will come here and show this thing, teach this thing for these African leaders. The moment Joe Biden call tomorrow and say, and some of them, the moment Joe Biden tomorrow, even tonight, Joe Biden just make a call to these African leaders, and some of them, the next day will get on plane to come. Today, and the British Prime Minister just make a phone call to Africa. These white African nations, their leader, the next day they will be on plane to come. Today, if Macron just make a phone call, they all will be on plane. But I dare any of them to make phone call to Biden. You know who Biden going to send? If somebody is supposed to go, Biden going to send the least man. Or if not, he might tell them we can't. Because we are in a battle right now with the Middle East. We are in a battle right now with Gaza or Palestine. We are in a crisis we are focusing right now. They will not come. Because it will look like an insult for an African leader to call Joe Biden. It will look like an insult. And tell them, come on the African continent. We want to host meeting. Call the Prime Minister of England. Call Macron. Come, we want to host meeting. It will look like an insult. They will never go. Rather, you know what's going to happen? They will tell them, you bring your, you bring yourself here. They will not go, but they will, you call. Anytime they call you, you come. But when you call them, they're not going to come. They're going to say, you come. That's how pitiful it is. So I don't blame them when they are making statements about Africans. Because if it were them, they were never going to make business with African. They were look. The reality here is, if African had been the one to colonize white people or European, okay, to rape European, all right, to put them on sugar plantation, all right, cotton plantation for 500 years, okay, put them on sex slavery, because we have all these great American pioneers like how they call George Washington, Thomas Jefferson, you name them, they all have black people, black women using it as sex slave. Impregnate them and then sell the babies to plantation holder. Had it been African have done that to European, do you think they would have still be talking about globalism, or they would still be talking about making business with them? Never. Never. In fact, they was going to tell African, you are the enemies, you are our enemies. Never. It was never going to happen. But yet we got another evidence that no matter what you so-called African leader do, this Western leader will never work. Even a perfect leader, most of their citizens, they know it. It will never work. For each time you think we are coming together, that means we are being used. Look at this again. Let's look at this. Africa is next. You playing phone. Africa is next for them. Look at this. Look at this right here. Look at this. We have many ton of video that we can show you, and you will see the reaction of these people. Many.
Do you see from the African continent in terms of global manufacturing horsepower?
Oh, manufacturing? None.
People go online, and in devolving so many globalist things, best way to show YouTube. Right? I don't know how this racist economists and globalists think. So before we watch the video, please make sure to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell. It's the best way to share YouTube. This is a good video, and it will recommend it to more like-minded people like you. This is a video.
What contribution do you see from the African continent in terms of global manufacturing horsepower?
Oh, manufacturing? None. Very little. Africa is a series of stacked plateaus, so just getting the infrastructure in there to access anything is very difficult. And while they do have very high birth rates and a more stable population structure, a lot of that is only possible because they export raw commodities and then import the things that allow them to have a degree of modernity. You break down global supply chains, a lot of that goes away. And so I think a lot of Africa is going to devolve. And they just don't have the infrastructure or the skilled labor that's necessary to participate at scale. And even if they did, in a less robust security environment, the connections necessary to make that happen are going to be very thin. So I think it's far more likely that the North American manufacturing system will start incorporating pieces of South America. We already have free trade deals with Colombia and Chile, for example. But yeah, I'm afraid that Africa really can't be part of that. Now, we might see pieces of Africa following the Indian model. I can see Nigeria becoming broadly self-sufficient. I can see a partial reboot of South Africa, but that's for their own domestic markets rather than any sort of international connection.
So let's react to what this.
All right. Again, did you see what he said? First of all, he's an economist, globalist. You so-called Negro, you so-called us Negro, like want to say it and talk about, oh, this war is a global society. It's a global war. We all have to work together. We cannot preach hate. When these people speak, that's not hate. But the movement African, okay, the movement and a conscious minded African African about to speak or speak the same thing, and then the same so-called host Negro will come and say that's division. That's not right. But when they say it, that's not division. Gladly. What he meant, they are never going to work with Africans. That's what he said is never. They are never going to work with Africans. Never. Never they will work with Africans. Never. Africa will never evolve. Look, you see how he even laughed? He talked about phone system network, right? Come on, man. I don't know how best we can explain this for our governments, for our leader to understand on the African continent. That the best solution for the African people is for the African nation to coordinate, to cooperate, to communicate among themselves. I don't know how best we can say this. I don't know. They are never going to take their technology to the African continent. Never. You heard what he said? Africa will use the Indian model. America, Europe, they've been on the African continent since Rock of Ages. Why does America model is not in Africa? Why is Europe model is not in Africa? But he said the Indian model in Africa, but it will not still work. But America and Europe been on the African continent even before India. In other words, you are also saying the Chinese model is not going to work. Why will not work? Listen to this. You know the reason why it will not work? They are not going to give Africa a chance. Who? America and Europe. They will not give Africa a chance to rise. That's why he said even the Indian model will not work. Why will it not work? If the African put themselves to it, put their mind to it, it will not work because they will not allow it. These people don't care. Because they know if Africa rise, it's done. It is Africa that make America. It is Africa that make Europe. It is Africa that build America. It is Africa that build Europe. It is Africa that build American economy. It is Africa that build European economy. So why do you think that Adam Smith said, you can never play with your source of income? If Africa is a source of American income, do you think America want to play with it? If Africa is a source of European income, do you think Europeans will want to play with it? How did America become, or Africa become America's source of income? By exploitation, by dehumanizing them. So if they know by empowering Africans will harm their economy or their source of raw material, they are never going to empower Africans. If Europe know by empowering Africa will harm their source of raw material, they will never empower Africans. That's why Adam Smith men never play with their source of income. You see, we Africans, we quote the white man quotation, but we don't know that anytime we quote the white man quotation, it is against ourselves. Now you understand what he said? Never play with your source of income. So America will never play with a source of raw material by empowering Africans. Europe will never play with a source of raw material by empowering Africans. If they want to collaborate with Africa to empower Africa, right? Why would they want to take pipeline from Niger, Nigeria, on the ground, on the ocean, all the way to Europe to provide electricity? While Africa is poor, why would they want to do that? Will they not start the process from Africa first to provide electricity for the African continent before taking it to Europe? Why would you not want to supply the source of electricity to where it is coming from before taking it to your home country. But you want to take it to your home country without supplying the people who have the resources. Now you understand. Do not play with your source of income. You think it's stupid to empower Africans? They know technologically, if they empower you, the resources will not be, the raw material will not be coming to Africa. Africa is used by America as a place for resources to be transported to America. Africa is used as a place for resources to be taken to Europe. Africa is not used by America and Europe as a place for finished products and then before taking it to America or to Europe. Do not play with your source of income. And they are seeing how Africans are waking up. And that is what they say Africa will be next. As they when they had their meeting, Africa will be next. After they have killed and destroyed Palestine and Gaza, Africa will be next. Why would they want to care about Africans when they are the ones supplying terrorists, rebels, to create proxy war? Why would they want to care? Why would they want to fight for you? Why would they want to empower your continent? Why would they want to improve your continent? When they know the moment they do it, they are playing with the source of raw material. But you see, it is ignorant, out of ignorance, after numerous evidences or evidence have been showing repeatedly, over and over. But our people are still being ignorant. Watch this.
Question about these free thinkers. I want to ask you a question about these free thinkers. What do these three men, which one of these three men mean more to you in your life right now? Is it Marcus Mosiah Garvey? Would it be Jesus Christ? Or would it be our brother Malcolm X?
Jesus Christ.
Can you explain why?
Jesus, yeah, Jesus. Honestly speaking,
Jesus.
based on everything I believe, I'm gonna go with the Caucasian brother. Jesus Christ.
Because he does everything for you.
Jesus. Jesus Christ. Jesus has been a staple in my life.
Jesus.
He's an awesome God. He's faithful. I mean, without him today, Jesus Christ.
Jesus. Marcus Mosiah Garvey. We can't take nothing from this man who brought Pan-Africanism to the consciousness. Now, let's not be confused that Martin Delany definitely was a Pan-Africanist, but didn't do it to the level that Marcus Garvey did it. Yeah. But why I say Malcolm X? Because Malcolm X's life parallels the life of the brothers that we need to get to, the brothers from the streets, the brothers that fell in the trap and through the cracks of white supremacy and how the system was designed for us to be incarcerated and be hooked on drugs. Malcolm can identify with that. So with that street knowledge, he coupled that with the conscious knowledge and learned how to turn both sides of the world into a super deluxe powerhouse that's undeniable. Malcolm went from a grassroots level to taking our plights to the United Nations, becoming an international figure. Not.
I want to ask you a question about these free thinkers. What do these three men, which one of these three men mean more to you in your life right now? Is it Marcus Mosiah Garvey? Would it be Jesus Christ? Or would it be our brother Malcolm X?
Jesus Christ.
Can you explain why?
Jesus, yeah, Jesus. Honestly speaking,
Jesus.
based on everything I believe, I'm gonna go with the Caucasian brother. Jesus Christ.
Because he does everything for you.
Jesus.
Jesus Christ.
Jesus has been a staple in my life.
Jesus. He's an awesome God. He's faithful. I mean, without him today.
Jesus Christ.
Jesus. Marcus Most.
So, did you see how sad it is, right? This is one reason they do not want African history to be taught. This is one reason they call African history critical race theory. It is critical to teach African history because if you teach African history, it's going to unify these people. They're going to identify us as the problem instead of we telling them, oh, you are the problem, your community is like that. You are the problem, you are not growing. You are the problem, you have poor healthcare system in your community. You are the problem, you have poor educational system in your community. Instead of we saying that the moment they get to understand that we are the cause, it will not be right for us. But you saw what they did. That simply means they read the so-called white man Bible, the so-called white man doctrine, then reading about Malcolm X, then reading about Malcolm Messiah Garvey. Had it not been for these people and many people of them that fought, do you think slavery would have ended in 1865? Hell no. Hell no. Slavery was never going to end in 1865. So then, where was Jesus? I mean the white Jesus. I'm not talking about the black Jesus. Where was the white Jesus? Even up to now, where is the white Jesus when black people are still at the bottom of the sea? Because being at the bottom of the sea, that means the sin is at the bottom of the sea. That means you are the least. Where is the white Jesus? Do you see the ignorance of our people? That I was listening to a pastor the other day. The video, not a live one, but a video. He said the man who brought about slavery, who brought about colonization, was the same man who freed black people. I mean, this pastor was preaching in a church to his congregation. I mean, in Africa. He was preaching in Africa, saying it was the missionary who brought about colonization, the missionary who brought about slavery, and it was the same missionary who ended slavery. Do you see how the some of the African pastors think or do things, lie to our people? So he did not mention that slavery ended because African fought. He never educated his follower that freedom is never given by the oppressor. Freedom is taken or given by the oppressed. So do you see how ignorant our people are? Look at this. Israel said they are coming to save Africa, right? But look at this right here. Let's see this. This is Israel, okay? How can you be coming to fight for African, to save Africans, but African in Israel are being ill-treated? You treat people in Africa, in Asia, right? Less populated. They are not even many. You cannot even handle them. You cannot even take care of them. How are you coming to save a whole continent when few number of people in Asia, you don't like them, you despise them? How are you going to come and love an entire continent of few handful of people that you despise in Asia?
Ethiopian Jews. Women then report 2013, that's not like 50 years ago. They reported that they were given against their consent and without their knowledge contraceptive shots so they wouldn't reproduce because they are the wrong color. Israel is a racist, apartheid country that is projecting this shiny example of secularism and democracy for the people, so people can accept whatever they do because they look at Palestinians as lesser people. This is the whole point. This is the whole point. And I would like to quote Winston Churchill. He had a quote that say, I don't believe that we have made a great wrong to the Red Indians of America or the black people of Australia because they were replaced by a higher race, a stronger race, a more world-wisely race. This is why Queen Rania is criticizing the West. This is why we here said, like, where are your values? Because this is the crux of the problem. It's not Hamas. It's not Palestine. It is people looking at us as lesser human beings.
Awesome.
Ethiopian people were immigrated to Israel. Ethiopia.
All right. So these were Africans, few handful of Africans, not even the entire continent, but just few handful of Africans that are in Ethiopia, right? What did the Prime Minister, Benjamin, what did he do to those people? Instead of them clothing them, giving them food, giving them shelter, rather, he was injecting them. Okay? He was injecting them in order to prevent them from getting pregnant. Decrease the population. So is that what they are coming on the African continent for? To come and kill Africans? To come and decrease Africans? To come and give them injection? To prevent them from procreating or recreating themselves? To come and destroy, as they are fighting war, creating proxy war, at the same time they are injecting Africans? Of course we know that's what they've been doing. These are few handful of Africans. You never show them love, you hated them. That alone to talk about an entire continent. This was just a short video, but let's look at the next one. This is systemic. It is systemic. No one has ever loved Africans. Since the day of African meeting, European, these Zionists, it have never been peace, it have never been collaboration, it have never been togetherness, it have been hate. Because of time, I may not even go into the Bible to give scriptures. Because this is Asia speaking, that's why we are going biblical as well. Because this is a revolutionary channel. But I wish we could quote some scriptures here. But that will come another day.
So how? What was going to be his whooping stick? He said, you provoke me to jealousy. Well, following other gods, and I'm going to provoke you to jealousy, to put you under a people that was not going to give regard for you, to put you under a people that was going to take you to a land with language that you didn't understand, that was going to dominate you. And what nation did he send first? He sent Assyria. Then he sent Babylon. Then he sent Persia. Then he sent the Grecian. Then he sent the Romans all the way to America. But you can really first look at this even in the book of Judges. Every time they would break the covenant, he would send another nation in, and then they would cry for deliverance, and then he would redeem them. So this is why we was taken to America. This is why we was taken to the four corners of the earth, and that we was in captivity. Even our Messiah, Yahushua, who the world known as Jesus, prophesied a captivity outside all the other ones, outside of Syria, outside of Babylon, outside of Greek, outside of Roman. He said there shall be a nation that's going to come in and lead you into captivity into all nations. Then now we got to look in history after he spoke that what nation was led into captivity in the four corners of the earth. And you have to look at the transatlantic slave trade. See, among these nations, you will have no rest. You will be getting killed from the time that you step foot on this nation. First of all, how you was going to get there. And the scripture says you was going to get there through ships. But even on those ships, from those ships, you was getting killed and thrown overboard. And then all the way to America now, where you're getting killed in the street, you're getting beat, you're getting burned, you've been lynched, you've been castrated. He said, among these nations, the psychological curses that'll be upon you, you will have no ease at all. Now, name me a 15-year period since we have been here over 400 years that we have had ease. Through every time period, we have been persecuted. Every time period, we have been killed. Even up to the day in 2020, we still have to declare Black Lives Matter, because the same thing that was going on when we first got here is still going on now. We still have chains upon us, letting us know that this is the consequences from an ancient oath that we made, that we're dealing with now. Our life shall hang in doubt of thee. From the time that we have got here, our life was hanging in doubt to the day when you get pulled over by the police. Your life is hanging in doubt. You don't know whether to reach for your license, whether to reach for your registration, because everything that we have tried to do to comply, we have been killed for. Eric Garner, Trayvon Martin, George Floyd, all these different aspects of things that we have been tried to do, our life will hang in doubt, not even just with oppressors, but even with ourselves and our own neighborhoods, walking through our own neighborhoods. What? Because of the curses. Like the scriptures say, oppression makes a wise man mad. It was a point in time throughout our history that we was wise people, but oppression has made us killers of our brothers, murderers of our sisters, where our life hanging down of us, even in our own neighborhoods. We are getting international terrorism through other nations, and then domestic terrorism within our own neighborhoods. The scriptures is speaking for itself. Our life is hanging in doubt of us. See, the scripture said that we shall betroth a wife and another man shall lay. Can you imagine marrying a woman and a slave owner owns her, that treats her like his property? So even on your wedding night, he comes in and takes his property, have sex and rape her, like the scripture said, and you will have no might or no power in your hand to do it. He put his imprint on her. But that was spoken of in ancient times, that this would happen, that the Most High was just saying, if you just keep my covenant, I will keep you from these things. He's saying that you will plant a vineyard and you would not gather the grapes. That was foreign to our people. Because every vineyard in ancient times that we planted, we gathered the grapes. It was for our people. But to plant a vineyard, cotton, tobacco, sugarcane, all these things were big businesses, and the wealth of America was built off this thing, we received nothing for it. So this is what the scripture was explaining. These are the curses that we ain't just pulling out of nowhere. This stuff is real, that you can see, that's supposed to get your attention and ask, why is these things happening? And it'll return you to the same book that you've been rejecting. Your identity, even the curses of your identity. The scripture says that you would discontinue from your heritage. What's in your heritage? Your language, your customs, your culture, all these things that said you would discontinue from. You'll be a people wondering who you are, where your identity and nationality is changing every 2 years. First you black, then you colored, then you Afro-American, then you African-American. What's going to be our next nationality in the next years? But the scriptures prophesied that we wouldn't know that because we broke an oath that was passed down to our lineages. Our sons and our daughters was given to another people. And we see what happened in history. All we got to do is look in history and see that the Bible is revealing itself. The scriptures is revealing what happened. That we was put on auction blocks. That children that we birthed were sent to other nations for us to never to see them again. Was given to another people. All the way to the day it's still happening, where our sons is being given to another people, is being imprisoned, and all these things are happening just as the book proclaimed that it would happen. Are these not the curses of what Deuteronomy 28 and what the scripture spoke of? Are we not seeing this in reality all the way up to 2020? How can you deny what you're reading? But the scripture said that we'll have eyes that we wouldn't see and ears that we wouldn't hear, that it'll be right in your face and you still can't see it. It'll be the words be put to your ear and you still won't have no resolve in it. Look how specific the scriptures are. It said, I will send faintness in heart and a sound of a shaking leaf. Do you know that that's speaking of our path to freedom? That's speaking of the Underground Railroad, where you would be asleep and a sound of look how specific the scripture is saying, that the sound of a shaking leaf will have you to tremble when nothing is pursuing you. What is happening? A fox or something will come out the woods. We sitting there trying to get the freedom, waiting, hiding out, and then it'll be faintness in our heart when these things happen. Look how specific these curses is to let the people of the covenant know that you broke a covenant and you have an Elohim that's pursuing you. This is your route back to the ancient path, to your ancient God, and people that didn't know who their God was, didn't know who their culture was, didn't know who their religion was. Another curse is that you would follow gods that neither you or your fathers have known. Who are the people in the earth that in one household, the father can be a Buddhist, the mama can be a Christian, the son can be an atheist, and the daughter can be whatever new religion she want to come up with? All in the one household, specifically to the only people on earth that don't follow the God of their culture, because we don't know who the God of our culture is. The scriptures speak of a yoke of iron and being up. Just go back and look at when we was led into captivity, when we was led to America, when we was led to other places we've been sold. We had a yoke of iron around our neck. You have to be able to look in history and line it up. One of the things that was specific to us is we was walking around with yokes of iron around our necks, being what led into captivity, to where, just as Yahushua, or who the world known as Jesus, prophesied, into all nations with a yoke and iron until we be destroyed. The scripture.
All right, so this part came in based on the answer to the first video that we showed, where they said, who will you pick? Messiah, Marco Garvey, White Jesus, or Malcolm X? And they all said White Jesus, my Caucasian brother, right? Now, these are some of the reasons from this video we just watched. These are some of the reasons they do not want to teach, or they do not want you to learn about your own history. Because if you learn your history, you will get to understand that the Bible is your history. The Bible is not Bible. It's actually a history for people, certain group of people. You will understand that the Bible is not it's not a religious book. Religious book is for the world, right? But the Bible is a history book. So if they allow you to learn your history, you will get to understand that the Bible, in fact, it became Bible in the 14 and the 1600 when the Roman Catholic Church, okay, when it began to narrate it from different language to their language. All right? When they began to take some things from in it, take some verses, take some Bible, okay, even the Negro Bible, okay, the Negro Bible that how they call it, what is his name? Jamestown. There's a town in Virginia called Jamestown, right? King James. All right. When King James wrote the Negro Bible, okay, he took out John 3:16. Okay, so so if you read the Negro Bible, okay, there are some verses that was not put in that Negro Bible. The thing they put in that Negro Bible was, slave, love your master. If your master slap you, do not react. Okay, pray for your master. All of those things, they put it in there. So it was never called Bible. It's a history book. So if you get to, if they talk about teaching the African history, right, you will get to understand, because now you will start putting things into perspective. But this is what the Bible says exactly. Because this is how our people were treated. Because the Bible says the Israelites, not the Israelis. The people in Asia right now, currently, they are not the Israelites. They are not part of the 12 tribe of Asia. They are not Esau. They are not the children of Isaac, Jacob. All right, and Abraham. They are not. All right, the people in Asia right now, they are the children of Esau. Like I said, we're running out of time. I still got things to show. So we were going to go biblical. And the reason why I'm going biblically, I'm going to the Bible, is because it's relating to Asia. Asia came out with the statement that Africa is next. And when they said they met with Europe and their counterpart, okay, when they done with the Middle East, or when they done with Palestine and Gaza, Africa would be next to go and kill and destroy, right? That is why I'm going biblical, because we have our so-called African pastors praying and fasting for Asia, thinking that the people in Asia right now, they are actually God-chosen people. Not knowing, they read the Bible, they do not understand who God-chosen people are, who God gave the covenant to, who God gave the law to, who God gave the Bible to. They do not understand. So they think the people in Asia currently, they are the chosen one. How can you be the chosen one when 1948 you were there? But before 1948, who were there? What happened before 1948? These people just came to 1948. So that's why they don't want you to know your history. The moment they start teaching African history, you will get to question yourself. But wait a minute. I saw this in the Bible, though. They say you will go to, how they call it, in ship. You will be enslaved. You will have iron on your neck. Which one of the group of people ever have iron on their neck? Is it the people in Asia right now? First of all, the Bible say you'll be disengaged from your homeland. So how can they be in Asia when the Bible say you are going to captivity and you'll be disengaged from your homeland? So that means gladly they are not the chosen people. Not only that, the Bible say you will have no might. If they say you will have no might, who are the people today that went to captivity that don't have might? The people in Asia, did they go to captivity? No. The people in Asia, do they have might? Yes. They have might, and that's what they said when they are done with Asia. That's why Palestine, Gaza, Africa will be next, because we don't have might. That's why I am going a little bit biblical. But we would have gone in scriptures, but we don't have time. I'm not a pastor. We are revolutionary. Do not play with these contemporary African revolutionaries, because we are reading from all angles. Because the moment or the day we get on the stage where anybody wants to debate us, we are ready for them. We don't have to go look in books. We will stand and defend. So it is our ignorant to look at Messiah Marco Garvey or Malcolm X or Dr. Kings or Patrick Lumumba or Thomas Sankara and instead say, I choose my Caucasian brother. Who died for you? Who died for you? Marco died for me. Messiah Marco Garvey died for me. Thomas Sankara died for me. Amika Cabral died for me. Patrick Lumumba died for me. Why should I leave it and go take one Jesus that never died for me? First of all, the book of Revelation, chapter 1, it revealed, chapter 1 to 15, it revealed who Jesus Christ was. But again, we have our so-called Negro pastor, they don't not teach or preach to our people rightfully. Knowingly, the book of Revelation revealed who Jesus Christ was from head to toes. But they still go preach to our people or teach our people that Jesus Christ was white. And when you want to talk about the debate, then they say it doesn't matter. If it doesn't matter, Jesus was never going to give his description in the book. It matters. That's why he put his description there. Because he knew people were going to change his identity. And he did not want for his identity to be changed. And because he knew, he wrote it or he made the people to write it in book. So that when that time comes, when they change his identity, his people will read and get to understand. So it matters. If it never mattered, white men could not have changed it. So for each time you want to talk about it, then they come with the narrative, oh, it doesn't matter. God, it doesn't matter. God love. God this. No. Jesus was a warrior. The Creator was a warrior. Even Jesus himself. People saw Jesus, they were afraid of him. Just how when they see the black man, they are afraid, they feel intimidated. That's how Jesus was. It's written in the Bible. People saw him and they felt intimidated. The black man. But our people will not teach that. But you will come on this channel, we will teach you it. Europe have never done anything for Africa but chaos.
One, what happened to your Holocaust that's still going on? What happened to the 50 million Africans, your brothers and sisters, that were murdered in Munamatapa, now called South Africa, under Cecil John Rhodes? Do you know that black folks take scholarship in honor of John Rhodes, Cecil John Rhodes? Because you don't know. Nobody told you who Rhodes was. Rhodes make Hitler look like a playboy. You don't know about the Holocaust with Frederick Lugard and Dr. Jemison in what is today called Nigeria, with Goldie and others when they took over the colony. You don't know about the Holocaust with Leopold II, the Vanderbilts and the Pews and the others, the Rockefellers and so forth, when they took over what was called Manicongo in those days and changed it to the Congo Free State. How many millions? 22 million were exterminated. African women pregnant were placed in the middle of roads, and 3 limbs put to both arms. and then cut with the horses and split them open and the babies fell out as punishment that the men would see it. These are records. They themselves wrote, not realizing that Africans will come later to revenge these causes. But that isn't mentioned as Holocaust in any of your textbooks, because it was only Africans being exterminated. I don't expect enemies to say this, but I do expect that when you write and when you do your research, that you use the appropriate term, genocide, Holocaust, wherever it applies. But you hear only about a Holocaust.
All right. So I'm going to bring out an article, the same article that I showed yesterday. Okay. So you heard what he said. One of our own educator, right? He said, European Holocaust against African were more than a Jew. But when they read their book, they never talk about what they did to Africans. Because it was just few handful of Jews that Hitler killed. But what the Europeans did, the English, in Zimbabwe they used to call Rhodesia, before today Zimbabwe. They killed millions of Africans. In South Africa, England, they killed millions of Africans. In Zambia, Germany, killed millions of Africans. In DRC Congo, Belgium, killed millions of Africans. Nigeria, England, killed millions of Africans. The list can go on and on and on and on and on. Okay? Not only that, the transatlantic slave trade, millions of Africans were killed and buried at sea. They never talk about that in their books. So today, these are the same people that are coming to say they are coming to help fight for African. They are coming to die for Africa. They are coming to die for African. They are coming to fight terrorists. They are coming to fight jihadi. These same people. How can someone come to fight for you, but they never recognize what they did against you? How can someone come to rescue you, but when they are the one supporting these terrorists? They are the one created your problem today, but they never recognize it. How? Ask yourself. If actually indeed they were coming to fight for you, why did they come back after slavery? They came back and colonized you. If indeed they were coming to fight for you, as they said, after slavery, why did they come back to colonize you? It did not end there. If they are coming back to fight for you, to rescue you. After colonization, what did they do? They continue to exploit your resources. If they were coming back to fight for you, it did not end there. When you are fighting for independence, why did they see it as threat? They start killing all your revolutionary African leaders if they were coming to fight for you. As they said, when they are done, they are coming to help fight for Africans. Are Muslims not African? So are they coming to fight for Christians? You see, that's how they're going to use Africans. Israel is not a Christian nation. I mean, the current Israel, the people that live there, they are not Christian. They are Zionists. They are oppressor. They are apartheid people. They are not Christian. They are not follower of the real black Messiah. They are white Jesus Christian. They are chaos. That's why they shape the youth, they call it Jesus. They have never reconciled of what they did in South Africa. How sure are you that they are coming to fight for Africans? First of all, the proxy war or the chaos you see in Africa are caused by them, by these European companies. So how can they say they are coming to fight? Who are they coming to fight? Now they are making it seem that it's Christian versus Muslim in Africa. The next thing, if you are not careful, that will be the next war in Africa. Christian war versus Muslim war. Religious war. That's what's going to be fought in Africa if you are not mindful. So you will see these so-called Christians will say, oh, their holy land has spoken, because they always go there for prayer, for this, for that. So they will say their holy land has spoken. They'd rather be on the side of the holy land. That is why in this video, they say, I'm going with my Caucasian brother, because he wants to go to heaven when he dies. If we are not careful, that will be the next war in Africa. Religious war. And that's why now they are preparing. They did it in Liberia. They said it was a tribal war. They put us together. Oh, it was this trap. It was this trap. It was this trap. But because of ignorance, we believe it. And we went against one another. They did it in Rwanda. Because of ignorance, the Houthis, the Tutsis, they went against one another. When the French put them together. When they use the Ugandan president, and currently also Paul Kagame, the CIA trained them. And they supported them. They went to DRC Congo to start the war, to create a war there. And today, that war is there as they continue to loot and exploit the people. How long are we going to be used? These are the same people coming back to say they are coming to fight for Africa. Who are they coming to fight? When they had a terrorist in Burkina Faso, in Mali, they did not fight the terrorists. The army of Burkina, the bees, had to tell the French to get out. Before today, in Burkina Faso, they are succeeding in fighting terrorists. How long are we going to depend on the enemies for salvation? Oppressor never gave freedom to the oppressed. The oppressed free themselves. Because the oppressor will never listen to the oppressed. If you don't believe that, let's look at the article right here. It's an insult. It is an insult for the oppressor to listen to the oppressed. It is an insult for the oppressor to take an idea of the oppressed. It is an insult for the oppressed or for the oppressor to be punished by the oppressed. It is an insult for the oppressor to be punished by the oppressed. And that's what this article means. U.S. Lombard, Maryland's South Africa request for ICJ to charge Israel with genocide. It is an insult for an oppressed nation like South Africa to take her oppressor for judgment. When it should be the other way around for the oppressor to take the oppressed for judgment, but rather, how can the oppressed take the oppressor for judgment? That's what they say, meriless. In Lombard, they say, South Africa, you are just making noise because you are an oppressed nation. You are making noise. That's why you are lamenting. And they say, who are you read it anyway, but we read it yesterday for those of you that are on the show. But I'm just explaining. And they said to South Africa, who are you to tell your oppressor that your oppressor are committing genocide? Who are you to come and tell us what genocide is? I don't blame these people. I blame Africans. Because the reason why I blame you, it is the same colonizer, the same enemies who will go to the African continent and put charges on African leaders, and you so-called African leaders, Negro, agree to it. You sat down there with Laurent Gbagbo, when America and her ally, because they said Laurent Gbagbo was not in their interest. They created a chaos, few people die, and they said Laurent Gbagbo committed genocide atrocity. And they took him to the Hague. Even though he got free, but at the end of the day, their mission were accomplished because he was removed from the country, and America and UK, they put in their government. Today, that government is supported them. That government is a puppet government in Africa. You so-called African leaders sat down and agreed to the definition of the colonizer, of the enemies, that this man committed atrocity, this man committed genocide. Who have committed the worst atrocity in the world? Now, when you come out to tell them, oh, you committed atrocity to them, they say, no, that's not atrocity, that's not genocide. Who are you to come and tell us this is genocide? We are the one to define it. That's why they tell Africans. Because you listen to them, yes, it's good. It's good. You listen to them. It's good. So that is why, for everything South Africa put on the table against apartheid Israel, the United States said that's not genocide. And in fact, the United States tried to change it to make it look like they are not fighting Palestine, they are not fighting Gaza, but rather they are fighting Hamas. But look at the nation of the people. How can you be fighting Palestine or fighting? How can you be fighting Hamas when you are bombing refugee camp of innocent men, of innocent children, of innocent women? Refugee camp. How can you be fighting Hamas when you are bombing hospitals to where people have gone for treatment? But America said that is not genocide. See them speaking here. The Joe Biden administration said that's not genocide. And the Joe Biden administration said, South Africa, you are just lamenting. Your argument is baseless. Because at the end of the day, who control the so-called ICJ, International Criminal Court or Justice or something? At the end of the day, who control the UN? So that's what they said. You so-called African, you are just making noise. We get to cut the cake and tell you what part of the cake is a cake and what part of the cake is not a cake. And you must accept what we say. This is a cake and this is not a cake. Now you coming to us, you oppress Africa. You are still a slave continent. You are still a colonial continent. You have no right to tell us where the cake, the sweetness of the cake is. You cannot cut the shot. We cut the shot. You are a slave. That's good for African leaders because you fail to do the right thing. You want to be identified in this way. So U.S. National Security Council spokesman John Kerber called South Africa submission meritless. When they went for Gaddafi, why didn't you call America meritless? When they went for Gbagbo, why didn't you call America meritless? But you agreed to them. When they put sanction on Mugabe, Zimbabwe, Up to now, sanction is still on Zimbabwe. Why did you call him meritless and you all agree to it? Zimbabwe, Mugabe is dead. He's rotting. In fact, maybe his boom had turned to dust. But sanction is still on Zimbabwe while Mugabe have been gone long time. Why is sanction still on Zimbabwe? Yes, that's good. Because you African leaders fail to realize who the enemies are. America said Israel is not trying to wipe the Palestinian people off the map. Then what are you doing? You bombarding places where no Hamas. America said Israel is not trying to wipe Gaza, Nile, Palestine on the map. But every time we see the news, innocent people are dying. Since October 7 to currently, more than 30,000 people about that have been killed by the bombardment of Israel and the support of the United States. Then how can you say you are not trying to wipe them up the map? When Benjamin Yechawu just said, after they are done destroying, after they are done wiping out Gaza and Palestine from the map, Africa is next. America said Asia is trying to defend itself against a genocide terrorist threat. Then why, when Africa tells France to leave, when Africa tells America to leave, so that they can fight, because America cannot fight terrorists on the African continent. France cannot. Folks, look here, just in Niger alone, the French military been there, German, Canadian, American, right? There's one nation, tiny nation. You have all these superpower, but they cannot defeat, they cannot even fight, they cannot even make an attempt. And then when you tell them to leave, they get angry. But they say Israel is in those nations, Palestine and Gaza, to fight jihadi. But every time you listen to the news or you do your research, jihadi or Hamas are not the one being killed, but innocent Palestinians are being killed, and their land, their horses, their culture are being destroyed. America says, so if we are going to start using the war, fine, let's use it appropriately. America said if Africa is going to use the word genocide, Africa should use it appropriately. America get to determine what Africans should say. They are right, because African leaders have always listened to America when it comes to African issues. The way America wants for Africa to view it, that's how African leaders view it. So it's good. Fine. I love it. I'm not angry with them, because they have to do what they can do to protect themselves. They have to do what they can do in order for the world not to see them as killers. You are powerless. You are not powerful. You can't even unite the African continent. That's why they say meritless. Oh, I love the word, man. I love it. That's why they say meritless. Meritless. You cannot unite the African continent. You people on the African continent are not united. The leaders are not united. The leaders are not coordinating, are not coming together. They cannot even solve African problems. You are meritless in a global society. You are nothing. You are non-entity. I love it. I love it. Yes, African leaders, I love it how they are putting it in your faces. I love it. America, thank you. Thank you. Thank you, America. I love you for that. I love you for that, America. I love you for that. Oh, yes. We need to scream. I can show you chapter. I can show you scripture for that. You know what the Bible says? Now, today is biblical. I'm going biblical, right? You know what the Bible says? Even Jesus Christ, he said, he was a shouter. Jesus Christ was loud. We are going biblical today. So Jesus Christ was loud. If you want me to show you that scripture, I will show you the scripture. And you know what Jesus Christ said? Be careful with people who talk slow. Be careful with people who talk soft. For their voice are smoother like butter, but war is in their heart. Their voice, their word are smoother than oil, but war, sword is in their hand. You know what Jesus Christ said? Shout loud for the people to hear it. So I'm not shouting. I want for my people to hear it. I'm telling my people, be careful with people who come to you with slow voice. Oh, you know, we got to unite. We got to, I love you, this. The Bible says that be careful with them. They are your enemies. They got sword in their hand. War is in their heart. That's why they are coming. They are talking soft. So by me shouting, that does not in any way mean intimidation. That does not in any way mean you can't hear me. I want you to get it. That's why the Bible said, shout out loud. Even to the sound of the waterfall. Have you been to a waterfall? Have you been to a waterfall? Have you been to a waterfall? That's the description in the Bible. He says, shout loud, even like a waterfall. I'm not a preacher. I am a revolutionary. We learn everything. We read everything. I'm not coming at you, but I'm just trying to let you know. That shouldn't be a point not to listen to wisdom. Let's continue. So you see it. So that's good for African leaders. I love how America is saying it. I love it. America get to define. The oppressor get to define how you should think. Who are you, Africa? You can't even unite. You can't feed your people. You can't find solution for your people. I love it. I love it. I love it. Look here. Everything we have. Look. People want to be Africans. Okay? But they do not want to. Okay. Not that they want to be African, right? They may want to. But people want to possess what Africa has. But they do not want to recognize with Africans. And by the way, we don't even care whether they recognize with us. Look at this video.
Who do they belong to? They belong to the museums where they are now.
Where do Africa's treasures belong? Now imagine this headline differently. Imagine if it said, where do Germany's treasures belong?
What does it mean for a society to lose so many objects? It means that we forget our religions and our spiritual practices. It means that we forget the names of our kingdoms and heroes. It means that we forget our music, our crafts, and our languages. We forget our stories. And as a result, we adopt other people's religions and call our old religions witchcraft.
That Westerners do not have to cross continents to uncomfortable climates to see them. So by holding on to them and displaying them for a fee, Western museums are still benefiting from their colonial legacy, still validating their historical wrongs and injustices. Their empires have crumbled, but their sense of entitlement has not.
Artifacts found in Africa can never belong to Britain in any way.
These artifacts, who do they belong to? They belong to the museums where they are now.
Where do
you see that, right? Did you hear that? First of all, the question is clear. Who do these artifacts, this identity belongs to? They belong to the museum where they are now. Does that answer the question? How can such people ever work with you? Does that answer the question? Who do these artifacts, this identity belongs to? They belong to the museum where they are now. Now, why did I bring this out? These people have African identity. Everything about these people is Africans. Everything about them is African. They change your culture. They change your identity. They make it white. They change your history, your identity. They make it Jesus. Now, those artifacts, and they were demonic. Why do they have it in their possession? They don't want to return it. But they will go to Africa, they have those identity. By the way, our culture, our forefather, right? They crafted our culture. They crafted, okay, our spirituality into craft. These European kings, they took those identity, those craft material, took it, and they're absorbing those spirits. At the same time, making millions, billions of dollars out of it. But in order for you to hate yourself, they come back, write book, and they say you practice witchcraft activities. But they have it. They have it in their land, and they're absorbing those spirits and practicing the same thing they call witchcraft. They practice it. But their practice is not even as perfect as you. And you agree that what you have is witchcraft. But they have it. They can't return it. Then when they told them to return it, they said, no, we can't return it now. It belongs to the museum. First of all, he did not say European made it. He did not say it is European identity. He said, no, even though African made it, even though we stole it, even though white people stole it, even though Europeans stole it, even though Europeans looted, because Europeans are the best looter ever in the world. What have African people looted from Europe? Nothing. But everywhere these Westerners have gone, they have looted. Anything they have met, they loot it. So everything they have in their possession is all looting property. Now, if you tell them to carry, they say, no, it belongs to where they are now. That is to say, African, your culture has been stolen from you. And they make it their culture. They put their representation there. But in reality, what they are worshiping you. And you are worshiping them. When they go to their closet, they actually worship the black identity. They worship the black identity because they know the power within a black identity. And then you worship the white identity because they know the white identity is a photocopy, quasi. no power in our identity. And that is why your problems are never solved, because you are worshiping the wrong identity. And by the way, this is the last video. Okay, it's a 1 minute thing. It's not even long. So this show, after everything we have said here, okay, this is what America, Europe, Asia want on the African continent. They don't want you. It's not about collaboration. It's not about love, love, love. It's not about John 3:16. Because by the time the Europeans want to get Africans, they come and quote John 3:16. But the truth here is, maybe that will come in another discussion. John 3:16 is not referring to the whole world. John 3:16, for God so loved the world, right? That he gave his only begotten son, right? That whosoever believe in him, right, shall not perish, right, but have everlasting life, right? That's what they catch you, whosoever. But let me ask you a question. This is a Revolutionary Repatriation Educational Lecture CB channel. You may say we try to twist the Bible. That's what you think. But how about if you are wrong? John 3:16 does not refer to the whole world. Everyone that believes in him does not mean the whole world. You have to understand at that time, when they were saying whosoever, it was in the midst of who? Who were he, Jesus, speaking to? Nicodemus, a ruler of the Jews, part of the Israelites, the 12 tribes. Now, before you understand John 3:16, you have to read John 3 verse 1, verse 2, verse 3, before you go to John 3:16. How are you going to jump over the precept and then go straight to John 3:16 and quote it? Oh no. Now, it said, for God so loved the world in the past, ED. There's a problem again. Now the question becomes, who did God love in the past? I'm not a pastor, but like I said, we do research now. We do not allow people to come and read to us again. Who did God love in the past? Because ED, that means it's already in the past. Who did God love in the past? Now, the New Testament came from the Old Testament, right? Now, when you go to the Old Testament, it will tell you who did God love in the past. And then even Hebrew will tell you who did God love, who that John 3:16 referred to. But even before that, if you read John 3:16 verse 1, the establishment of whosoever is laid down from verse 1 to 2 to 3. Now, let me ask you a question again. Let me make this clear. July 4th, 1776, when Thomas Jefferson, or how they call it, George Washington then, right? When they said all men were free and equal, did it apply to all men? When did slavery end? When did it end? 1865. Then that means black people were not men. Do you understand? That means, now somebody will say, why are you going to equate that into the Bible? But it's English. You have to understand just how you telling me not to equate that into the Bible. You have to understand John 3:16 at that time, which nation of people were together? Jesus Christ was among which nation? Which group of people? That's why he said whosoever. So in the same way, when George Washington then said, all men, you have to understand which group of nation were they among when they said all men. 1776. Because that all men, it did not apply to black people. We were slaves. It did not apply to black people. It did not apply to the enslaved Africans when they say all men. Because 1777, All men were not free. All men were not equal. Until 1865. Even as that, all men were not still equal. We have Jim Crow law. White only, black only. Don't go here. Privilege. All men were not equal. So you have to understand. When they say all men, 70s when they say it did not apply to all men. So are you going to say, oh, when they say all men, it applies to all men? No, people were still enslaved that time. People were still on a plantation. People were still on a cotton plantation. So all men were not free. That's why they don't want you to learn your history. The thing you call the Bible is a history book for the 12 tribes of Israel. That's why when you read the entire book, it always Israel, the 12 tribes, the Israelites, the Israelites, the Israelites, the Israelites, the Israelites. It never said the word, the word, the word, the word. It never said all people. Always, when you read the Bible, where it's supposed to say the word, it will always say Israelites or the 12 tribes. Always. So you got to understand. So when they say they are coming to Africa or they want to collaborate, what I'm about to show you, that's what they are coming for. They are not coming for no friendship. They are not coming for no collaboration. They have never collaborated with Africa. That's why after slavery, they went for colonization. That was in collaboration. That's why after colonization, when we were fighting for independence, they start killing our leaders. That's not collaboration. That's why they always take our resources, even up to today's date. That's not collaboration. When Europe is developed, America is developed, new technology, now you have car that can fly. You have car in this modern time. They are making car that fly. And at the same time, a land, a drive. They are making car that can go over the sea. And then get on the land and ride. They are living their heaven. We that got the resources on the African continent, we are living in hell, in captivity. But when they come to you and say, God is love, we should this, we should that. They will still come to you and say, it's globalism. Then why, we that got the resources, we cannot make car that can fly over this, or like can go on the sea, it go on the sea, on the land, it drive, in the air, it fly. We can. While we are still suffering for technology, we can't. So this is what they are coming for. This right here. And then that one.
Sovereign states, 17% of the world's population, 9.6% of the global oil output, 90% of the world's platinum supply, 90% of the world's cobalt supply, half of the world's gold supply, 2/3 of the world's manganese, 35% of the world's uranium, 75% of the world's coltan. This is what makes Africa so, and this is Africa, a continent of 54 sovereign states, 17% of the world's population, 9.6% of the global oil output, 90% of the world's platinum supply, 90% of the world's cobalt supply, half of the world's gold supply, 2/3 of the world's manganese, 35% of the world's uranium, 75% of the world's coltan. This is what makes Africa so.
Now, this is what makes Africa so attractive. This is what makes Africa so open for exploitation. Okay? Now, with all those percentage, right? What makes Africa open for exploitation? Ignorant. Complete ignorant. That's why we perish. And that's why people take advantage of us. So that's what they are coming for. With all these percentage of resources that Africa have, Africa is the poorest continent. as I would say it. Not in terms of resources, but we are poor in terms of thoughts, in terms of thinking, in terms of ideology, in terms of identifying what is wrong and what is right. That's what makes us the poorest. So, if you can unite African leaders, sit and watch. The only way Africa is going to be free, if we don't do the right thing, if we don't unite, the only way we're going to be free, unless the Arab Spring, the Arab nation, defeat Israel. And if they defeat Israel, that means they defeat America. Then Africa is safe. But if Israel wins the Arab Spring, the Arab nations, we are in big trouble. Because we can't fight. We can't even manufacture our own weapon. We're not even united. We are not united. They're going to make us fight among each other. We are done. We are done. So that is why Benjamin, the Zionist, openly said he went and met with a European counterpart in a meeting along with America. How are you going to? You say you want to save Africa, you want to fight for Africa. How are you going to have a meeting and you don't have African representatives? You don't have African leaders. But you went and met with European leaders along with American, your allies. And then you say you're coming to fight for Africa, to save Africa. How can you be saving Africa and having a meeting and Africa is not represented? Let us think. Be wise. That's why we are the poorest in our thinking, in our innovation. You heard the other video when the other white boss said they are always thinking ahead. And what did he say? The reason why they think ahead because they know there's a war coming and they are going to fight. They are not going to allow Africa to rise. If Africa rise, then that means Africa have to fight. You know what he said? And he said, we are not coming to develop Africa. Now there is no more slavery. There is no more colonization. You are on your African continent now. You say you have so-called independence. No one putting net to your throat. And you still complaining that your resources coming to Europe, coming to America. Those are the things he said. So, if you guys can unite the African continent and have one army, get ready. When the Arab Spring are being defeated, you are next. That Israel, America, Europe are coming for you. They are coming for you. They are not coming for love. They already make it clear there's no globalism. They made it clear when that globalist spoke. There's no globalism. They are not working with Africa. You know the reason why they're not working with Africa? Because their interest lies in Africa to exploit Africa. If they work with Africa, Africa become in power. What do you think will happen? They will go down. They will fail. They will become third world country. And the thing that baffled me, like I said, let me repeat myself. These people continue to show themselves of who they are, of what they think, but yet they stay Africans. I don't know, it's a spell, it's a curse. We don't still get it. It is because we want to go to white heaven, white Jesus. Is that? All right, folks, this is today's discussion. Thank you for being on. We've been here since 1 p.m. and now it's 3:30, almost 4 o'clock. But this is today's presentation. We hope it get to the authority, the African authority, those in power. We hope it get to them. Because what we say here, hey, Europe does not care. America does not care. They don't care. You know why they don't care? Because they keep saying it. So we are just showing to people what they say. So if our leader in power can give some senses and understand and love with them. But I will see you on Saturday and next week. Peace. Share the live. Subscribe. If you come across us and you watch, subscribe to the channel. So anytime we go live, you get us. Don't just be part of the viewer. Be part of the community. Subscribe to it. All right? We need to unite. Most of the thing we say here, sometimes we see YouTube always send our video back. They always block it because they will say it's against their guideline, and their guideline is their interest. Okay? Their guideline is their interest. If you come right here, right now, and start talking all crap about African people, and then praising the colonizer or the European or the Westerner, YouTube is never going to say it's against them. They're going to love it. But the fact that we are educating our people, they're going to say it's against their guideline, it's against their policy. But if to say I was here insulting Africans, degrading Africans, okay, and at the same time praising the colonizer, the European, praising them, talking about colonization was good, talking about it was good, they raped Africans, it was good, they killed Africans, and in fact it brought civilization to Africans by killing Africans, by raping Africans, by enslaving Africans, by colonizing Africans, by putting Africa on the plantation, on the sugarcane plantation, on the how they call it, cotton plantation. If I say those things and then I say it was good because it brought civilization to Africa, it was good because African traveled to the white man land, they won't see it as against their guideline or against their policy. But the moment I say Africans were here in America here, Colombia came and killed Africans, Colombia came and dropped Africans, if I start saying those things and educating people, right, it will go against their policy. So then, who is the enemies? Do you still want to go to white heaven? Well, I don't know how best I can explain that. Anyway, thank you for hanging in. This is the Revolutionary Repatriation Educational Lecture Series where we are unapologetic of what we say because we are on a battlefront. And when you are on a battlefront, you become unapologetic. Because if you apologize to your enemies, you become a victim to your enemies. And we do not want to become victim. So we will be unapologetic for what we say here. Peace.